Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanam Chadi Jamanatira Vanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Adi Kunjabi Gopi Janna Balabha Girivardhari Pijana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Dana Vrajajanaran Jasodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanam Chadi Jamanatira Vanam Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Hariva Jagacharya Astatara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace Easy Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Where are you going? Is it in the way? Okay. Are you ready for hearing some nice understandings from Ramayana? How about you? Yes? Tell me something that you know about Ramayana. It's just one thing. Ravana killed Rama killed Ravana, not stole Ravana. He let him have it. He finished him. Yeah. How about you? Something from Ramayana. Anything. Could you translate that one? Ramachandra uses bow and arrow.
And then fight.
And fights. Yes.
That Ravana took Sita because he wanted to marry her, and Rama sent Hanuman to get back Sita, and Hanuman fighted this villain, this big villain that entered in the kingdom of Ravana.
Yeah. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Yay! Hanuman. Hanuman. So a little bit, the big picture. The big picture is the story of Ramayana was very much loved by the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya's spiritual master's name was Jamunacharya. Jamunacharya. Jamunacharya? Yes. So Jamunacharya studied and meditated and prayed and expressed to his disciples. There are 18 main themes. 18 main themes in the whole of Ramayana. And 14 of those are about surrender, Sharanagati. And one of the functions in the process of surrender is one is brought to the personality of Godhead by a guru, by a spiritual master. Hanuman plays the function of guru by bringing Sita back to Ram. He was empowered by Ram to do that. He was instructed by Ram to do that and empowered by Ram to do that, because a guru can't do that without empowerment from the Supreme. He was explicitly empowered. I have confidence that you will find Sita and restore her to me. Now, who is Sita? Sita is the internal potency, the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like Lakshmi is to Narayan, Sita is to Ram. They're inseparable. Can you ever separate sunshine from the sun? No such thing. Can you separate the sun from sunshine? No such thing. They're inseparable. And dear. Oh, Ram, look. See that beautiful deer. When we go back to Ayodhya in 1 year from now, wouldn't it be very nice if that deer was in the royal garden? You know how much I love the garden. I love the garden more than the palace. And oh, if this lovely deer was there, wouldn't that be nice, Ram? And even if you can't catch him alive, you can shoot him dead, and then we can skin him and we can sit together on the deer skin. That's not Sita. What's that? That's a living entity that wants to be an enjoyer of the objects of this world. That's not Sita. But she manifested that, according to the commentaries, and that was the cause, or that was a cause, of her falling prey to illusion in the form of being separated from Ram, because you can't be separated from Ram. We can't be separated from Ram either, or Krishna. But the illusion says we're separated. Not possible, but covered with illusion. So, to restore Sita to Ram, Hanuman is needed. I mean, Ram doesn't need anybody, but he gave that service to Hanuman. And so, in the process of surrender. So you know the ordeal. After Sita was kidnapped, Ram and Lakshman went searching. Many events happened. Kabanda indicated the best way to find Sita is to make friendship with one who is in a similar difficulty. Sugriva is in a similar difficulty. You'll find him near Lake Pampa. Head that away. So they went that away. They went to Lake Pampa. They found, who'd they find? Shabari, right? Shabari? Yeah. The old ascetic lady. She served Ram and Lakshman very happily. And then she pointed out, up on that mountain, that's where Sugriva is. So they didn't even have to go up the mountain. What happened? Hanuman came down the mountain and brought them to Sugriva. And they made friendship and many things happened. The Vanaras were sent in different directions to find Sita because they knew that Ravana had kidnapped her, but where did he take her? Because he could travel anywhere in the universe. He was that kind of he had that kind of power. So they finally found out where she is. How'd they find out where she is? Sampati. Sampati? Sampati? Yes, you know Sampati. Sampati was the brother of Jatayu. Jatayu. So Sampati was the elder brother, and Sampati had vision. He could see far, far away, and he said, there's Sita. She's in Lanka. She's still alive. She's still okay. But they wanted to then verify, so Hanuman was given the assignment. Well, it didn't happen right away. What happened was, the distance between where the southern tip of India and Lanka, where Ravana's kingdom was really far. 100 yojanas, which is how many miles? 800 miles. So who's going to be able to jump 800 miles? They asked the Vanaras. Well, I can do 300. I can do 400. And no one could do it. So then what happened? Jambavan said, Hanuman, you're not saying anything. You know why Hanuman didn't say anything? Because when Hanuman was little, a little Hanuman, little baby Hanuman, he was the son of Vayu. He had powers like anything, so he could But when he got all these benedictions from the demigods, there's some story in between, he was doing monkey business as a little monkey and messing up the yagyas of the brahmanas. But there was a benediction that he couldn't be cursed by a brahmana. So the brahmana said, well, you're going to forget everything until that day comes when somebody reminds you of all your powers. So Jambavan knew. Jambavan said, Hanuman started growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's the one that can cross the ocean to reach Lanka. You with me? You know the story, right? Kind of. Trying to remind you of some of the pieces of the story. So we're going to hear the first 39 verses of Sundarakanda. Sundarakanda is all about Hanuman. But there's other things that's Sundara. What does Sundara mean? Sundara means beautiful, right? Like Shama Sundara. Shama Sundara means beautiful Sham. Krishna's a name of Krishna. Shama Sundara, right? The deities in Vrindavan. Radha, Shama, Sundara. Yes? Radha, Shama, Sundara. So Sundara means beautiful. Sundara has a second meaning. Sundara also means worthy of seeing. And Sundara has a third meaning. Finding a lost object. Ah, Sita was lost, but they found her. Hanuman found her. Nashta dravasya labhohi sundara prakirtita. Finding a lost object. So that's Sundarakanda has to do with finding Sita. But then there's other Sundara features, or the beauty of Ram. Rama, Saundarya, it's a grammatical Sanskrit grammar rule. Sundara becomes Saundarya. Rama Saundarya, the beauty of Ram. The beauty of Ram is found in Sundarakanda when Hanuman is in the tree above where Sita is, and he doesn't want to frighten her, so he starts singing the glories of Ram. And in 95 verses, Hanuman describes the beauty in the form of beautiful Ram Saundarya. So finding a lost object, Ram Saundarya, Sita Saundarya. In when Hanuman finally finds her in the Ashok grove in the gardens, he's astonished at her beauty. He describes her beauty and explains or speaks, now I understand why Ram was so attached. Although she's been in this shriveled condition, she hasn't eaten the whole time that she was there. She became quite skinny, but her beauty still shone forth. For 10 months, according to what's described, she didn't even lift her head. She didn't want to see Ravan. She just fasted for 10 months. Pretty intense. Do you know how old Sita was when this happened? Here's how old Sita was when this happened. According to when Ravan came to Panchavati to try to kidnap Sita, he asks her, who is she? What is she doing here? And she gives a little history. I'm the daughter of King Janak, the king of Mithila, and my husband is Ram. I was 9. She was 9 when she was married. How old are you? Huh? 12. Well, in Vedic times, those things happened. And you know how old Ram was? 12. Pretty cool, huh? And then, for how many years they went to Ayodhya and stayed in Ayodhya before he left for the forest? Another 12 years. So Ram was 24 and Sita was 21. And they had been in the forest for about 13 years. A little less than 13 years. 12 and a half years. So add 12 to 21. That's how old she was. And another feature of Sita's beauty was her detachment. Lanka was incredibly opulent. Pay attention. Lanka was incredibly opulent, but Sita wasn't attracted at all to the opulence, the material opulence, gold and this and that. So that's Sita Saundarya. Then there's Hanuman Saundarya, and the strength of his Saundarya was his service to Ram. He wasn't interested in anything. Anything. He even thought, gosh, I'm a brahmachari, and here I am going through the residence of so many wives of Ravan. See if I can see Sita. Really isn't a place for a brahmachari. But he wasn't attracted. He wasn't attracted to anything of the material world. He was attracted to one thing: service to Ram. That's Hanuman Saundarya. And then this is our Acharya's commentary. It's Govindaraj, actually. Paramatma Saundarya. There he is. Paramatma Saundarya. The beauty of the agony the Lord endured being separated from Sita. Because he's within the heart of everyone. He was within the heart of Sita. Of course, Sita is not a jiva. Sita is Shakti. But she also has heart. And she was in his heart, and he was in her heart, and he was in Hanuman's heart, and Hanuman was in his heart, and not the same as us, but different. Jiva Saundarya. In the midst of temptation and opulence, the surrendered soul's determination is to stay at the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. No distractions. That's the beauty of a jiva. Attachment to the Supreme, detachment from everything else. Acharya Saundarya, Govindaraj explains. One who takes whatever austerity, whatever anything, to deliver the message of the personality of Godhead to the living entity. That's the Acharya function. And that's very beautiful. That brings beauty to that living entity that performs that function. It's not the living entity, it's the empowerment or the beauty given by the personality of Godhead to one, just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter. There's no one more dear to me than that person who delivers this message to others. You want mercy, you know how to get it. Receive the message and give the message. And Kavya Saundarya. Kavya comes from the word kavi. Kavi means poetic. Can also mean learned, but poetic. So a beautiful poem should have nice, beautiful words, expressions, churn the emotions of the one who hears the poetry. And this Sundarakanda has all those things. Okay, so now we're going to start with the 39 verses. And some of them will go into some detail, and towards the end it's his body has gotten really big because he's got to go this big distance, and he's going towards the top of the Mahendra mountain and crouching, getting ready to spring, and then off he goes. So that's picture that in your mind. Maybe you've seen images and paintings of that scene. So picture that in your mind. The first text. Hanuman, crusher of enemies, resolved to find the whereabouts of Sita. Carried away by Ravana, he followed the path of the Charanas, Who are the Charanas? Charanas are in the heavenly realm. They're persons that sing for the pleasure of the demigods. They're the Charanas. There's Charanas and Siddhas and Gandharvas and Apsaras, and they do different services. The Charanas, they sing. They sing nice songs for the pleasure of the demigods, in the glorification of the demigods. So he's following the path. Hanuman is following the path of the Charanas. In this case, it means for us the previous perfected souls. He was an independent-minded person. He knew how to follow the perfected souls. And before he began his service, before one who is carrying out the service of another, that's what an acharya does, service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's this very clear determination, or sankalpa. You know what the word sankalpa means? It's intention, or you fix your mind on achieving something. But he's not doing it independently. He's doing it on behalf of Ram. The mission assigned to him by Ram: find Sita. 2 words. Find Sita. And then sankalpa. He's fixed, and he's going to follow the path of the previous perfected souls. This is the principle of disciplic succession. It's an acharya function, and he is preparing himself to carry out that mission. The next verse is really nice. It describes his posture as he's crouched at the top of Mahendra mountain. Hanuman, who raised his head and neck, intending to cross the formidable ocean which none else could accomplish, looked like, well, the literal translation is a leading bull. So it's gavam patir iva. Literally, it's the husband of a cow. Gavam pati iva, like a bull. But in a herd of cows and bulls, there may be one that's like the leader, the lead bull, the master, the dominant male, whose stance is formidable and is ready to challenge anyone, anything. So Gavam can also indicate, the Gavam Pati can also indicate one who is eloquent speaker. Hanuman was gifted when those benedictions came from the demigods. There's a story, so when benedictions were given, he would be an eloquent speaker. There were many. That was one of many. He spoke so well. Always in any circumstance, he knew how to speak to Ravan. He knew how to speak to Ram when he first met Ram. When he first met Ram at the base of the Rishamukh mountain, Ram was really impressed. He turned to Lakshman and said, he didn't even speak first to Hanuman. He said, "Did you hear him speak? Perfect Sanskrit." And he spoke in nice meter and nice melody, and everything was very clear. And he's an excellent speaker. He's a very learned person. Although he was in the monkey race, he wasn't a normal monkey. Son of Vayu. There's some other terms, and I don't know if time permits. It's already a little after 7. Here's the Sanskrit. Duskaram Nishprati dvandvam chikirshan karma vanaraha samudagra shiro grivo gavampatir eva ababhau. So vanara, this term vanara indicates it's a there's 400,000 different species of human beings, so they're not exactly monkeys, they're not exactly not monkeys, they're not exactly humans, they're not exactly not humans. They're human-like. This vanara term indicates. So we commonly say monkeys, just like makes it easy, but they weren't exactly monkeys, they were monkey-like. They weren't exactly human. But they were human-like. They were vanaras. The literal meaning is, are they human? If you were to translate the word vanara, that's what it means. Are they human? In the commentaries on Ramayana, this word vanara is used not just in reference to the assistance of Sugriva and those that helped Ram get victory over Lanka and Ravana and so forth, but it refers to, in general, to devotees of the Lord who can achieve superhuman tasks. Because going way back, in the very, very, very beginning of Ramayana, when the yajna was being performed so that Dasrath would be able to have sons, that was going on in the earthly realm. In the heavenly realm, the Devas were having a Deva conference. And their conference was, what are we going to do about Ravana? He's disturbing the whole universe. What to do, what to do. As they were speaking, Vishnu, this is Padma Purana, says, Vishnu appeared right in their assembly and said, no worries, just now I'm going to appear in 4 forms as the sons of Dasarath, and you please assist me in conquering Ravana. You arrange, Brahma, you arrange for the demigods to produce offspring in the species that Ravana didn't ask benediction from you. So the Vanaras were then told, the demigods were told, produce offspring that will have all these superpowers, demigod kind of powers. Demigod kind of powers, but they're in the bodies of Vanaras that are not exactly human, but not human, not exactly monkey, but not monkey. They could change shapes. They could use all weapons. They could do superhuman things. So back to Hanuman getting ready to jump. He has that capacity. Dushkaram karma. He had very difficult work ahead of him. Dushkaram karma. Not just, jumping 800 miles. How far can you jump? Few feet. Anyway, so it was a big jump. But not only the big jump, but everything else he did. Finding Sita, that was a big challenge. And then protecting Sita, that was another big challenge. And challenging Ravana and the whole of the city of Lanka, and burning it and everything else he did. A big challenge. Dushkaram karma. But the biggest was reuniting Sita with Ram. All of that was kind of secondary. There's one thing. Find Sita and arrange for Sita to be again with Ram. Nishprati Dvandvam Chirkishan. He had a strong desire to serve Ram, desire that goes beyond Dvandava. Dvanda means duality. Well, duality. Sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're cold. Sometimes it's light, sometimes it's dark. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you're hungry, sometimes you're full. Sometimes you're energetic, sometimes you're pooped out. It's the world of duality. Resolve beyond duality. That's an acharya requirement, one who's carrying out a mission on behalf of the Supreme Person. This is for the adults here. This is a Bhagavad Gita question. You ready? Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 41. The same understanding is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, he knows. Paramatma knows. Anybody else knows? Bhagavad Gita 2:41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. There it is. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Single mind. Buddhi means intelligence. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Single-minded intelligence. Beyond duality. No, well, I don't know. It's a big challenge. Maybe I'll think about it. Single-minded. Okay, I'm going to keep going because of time. Text 3. Tawny-hued Hanuman. Tawny is kind of like a brownish white, cream-colored, brownish color. That's tawny. That's the color of his body, Hanuman's body. Tawny-hued Hanuman, gifted with extraordinary strength and patience, happily strolled on the marshy tracts of grasslands which had the color of Vaidurya. So this marshy grasslands, of course, it sounded like he was already on top of the mountain, but he's not at the mountain. He wasn't at the mountain yet. He is getting ready. So the marshy grasslands, our poets, acharyas say, this indicates our worldly activities and the attachments for our worldly activities, tendencies we discussed in this morning's class, vasana, the accumulation through past impressions of a certain tendency for material stuff, doing this and doing that, that's our vasanas. And they just keep moving us along like, conditioned souls. So he's moving past all that. He's leaving that behind. Bhagavad Gita, Yesham Twantakatam Papam Jananam Punyakarmanam Te Dvandvamoha Nirmukta Bhajante Mam Dridhavrata. Some of you may know that verse. You can look it up later. It's a nice one. 728. Yesham Twantakatam Papam. So whatever has been there back in that direction in our past, we can go beyond our past by taking shelter of the personality of God in this beyond duality position. So we're moving through the marshy grasslands. We're moving through the field of the material energy as we're living our lives. But we're not, and the life of devotion is to not be attached to that and be prepared to go forward with your mission to carry Krishna's message, or in this case, carry Ram's message. There's another nice Sanskrit word that's like this vasana word. There's different types of karma. According to Nectar of Devotion, when you get to study Nectar of Devotion, you'll learn all about it. There's prarabdha karma, that's karma that's happening now. Like, you stub your toe or somebody gives you ice cream. So it can be something that's painful or something that's enjoyable. Some happiness or some distress. That's prarabdha karma, it's happening right now. And then there's that which didn't happen yet. Aprarabdha karma. That's these tendencies. It's karma stored up that hasn't happened yet. But it's, there's tendencies. And when tendencies get their prompt, they come out. Like, you can be very calm and then somebody says something nasty to you and something happens to the mind. Anger. You're not walking around angry, but that spring is there. And but some people just are very tolerant and they don't get angry. That's without the vasana. So he's going beyond those tendencies. That's the point. Text 5 and 6. The mountain was as though decorated with mineral rocks of varied colors, like blue, red, and yellow, and green, as well as black and white. It was frequently visited by yakshas, kinnaras, gandharvas, and nagas, surrounded by their retinue capable of assuming any form at their free will, rivaling gods and nagas in splendor. As the monkey leader stood at the foot of the great mountain, filled with lordly elephants, he looked like an elephant standing at the center of a pond. I know all of these have extensive commentary, really poetic, beautiful commentary. So each of these different entities that are on the mountain and so forth, and his approaching the mountain, it's all poetic language intended to describe he's preparing himself. And he's leaving behind attractions and allurements of heavenly pleasures, worldly tendencies, heavenly pleasures, heavenly tendencies. He's going beyond all that. Offering salutations with folded palms to the sun god. Just like Radharani worshipped the sun god. Did you know that? That was her Ishtadev. But it wasn't just, Surya Dev. It was Surya Dev, but for Radharani, it's not just a demigod. It's Surya Narayan, the personality of Godhead. So she saw within Surya was Surya Narayan. Within the sun is the sun god, Surya Narayan. So Hanuman is looking to the east, because it's morning, looking to the east with folded palms, offering his prayers to the sun god. May I be successful in service to Ram. And to the wind god, that's his father, to the creator, Brahma, and to all the attendants of Lord Shiva, he made up his mind to proceed to Lanka. So who did Hanuman receive instruction in the Vedas? From whom did Hanuman receive instructions on the Vedas? Hint, chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, long ago I instructed the sun god Vivaswan, and son Vivaswan instructed his son Manu, and Manu instructed Ikshvaku, and Ram is in the Ikshvaku line. So guess who Hanuman's guru is? Vivaswan, who Krishna instructed. So he's offering respects to his guru, the one who taught him scripture, the sun god. And then he offers prayers to the host of demigods, starting with his father. Then, after facing east, Hanuman, endowed with great equanimity, facing the east and joining his palms by way of salutation to the wind god, his father, enlarged his size and turned south in order to depart. So he's honoring everyone, the spiritual and the worldly. He's honoring everyone because he's on an important mission. He needs everyone's blessings. Having made up his mind to leap for the cause of Ram, Hanuman began to grow in size just like the sea swells during the full moon. The tides move with the movements of the moon, right? The tides move with the movements of the moon. It's not only modern science. Hey, they knew about this long ago. Okay. While the monkey troops were watching, all of his friends, having swollen to an immeasurable figure, he pressed on the mountain with his feet and hands. He's crouching, getting ready to jump, to cross the ocean. Pressed firmly by Hanuman, the mountain was shaken for a moment, which caused the flowers to drop down from the treetops. With heaps of flowers, full of fragrance, fallen down from the trees all over the mountain, it looked as though it was a mountain of flowers. So the poet commentators say, the flowers represent glorification by tree-like personalities who understand the gravity of dedicating oneself to the benefit of others. The trees, Krishna speaks like this to Balaram when they're in the forest of Braja and said, these trees are saints. They're bowing down, laden with fruits and flowers to offer their respects to you. These, I can tell, they're saints and they're honoring you. So persons knowing that someone's doing a difficult task like this, they want to offer whatever they have. And so they're offering their well wishes. In that section where Krishna is speaking to Balaram in the forest as the trees are bowing, he's saying that they're saints. Then there's this celebrated verse. You might want to learn it. It's a nice verse. 10:22:35. It's the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Pranayar artayar diya vacha. Pranayar artayar diya vacha. It's the duty of every human being to do welfare activities for others using these things. So now we're halfway there. The mountain pressed hard under the feet of the valiant Hanuman, discharged streams of water, just as an elephant would exude water of intoxication. Pressed by the powerful Hanuman, Mount Mahendra let out streams of the hue of gold and silver, containing the ores of these minerals. The mountain threw down big boulders, along with sulfur, just like fire emits columns of smoke surrounded by flames. So the poets are saying these expressions are indicating the acharya that's preparing himself. These oars represent the many, many desires within a person that stain their actions otherwise, or make stains. So he's pressing, that's being eliminated from the jumping point. Hanuman's pressing down on the mountain indicates he is freeing himself from any material or selfish desires that might stain his pure devotional service. So I think I'm just going to read the rest because of time. Squeezed on all sides of the mountain by Hanuman, all creatures living in the caves shrieked, making horrible sounds. Due to the crushing of the mountain, a loud noise of the various creatures shot up, filling the earth in all directions and groves around. The snakes spread out their broad hoods, manifesting swastika marks on them, and bit the rocks with their fangs, pouring out terrible fire. Bitten by the venomous and angry snakes, the mountain was broken into 1,000 pieces by blazing flames. Pretty scary. Even the medicinal herbs grown on the mountain could not neutralize the effects of the poison of the snakes. Even the poison and the snakes and all of this has its poetic imagery. Even the ascetics left the place, approaching that the mountain would be broken into pieces by creatures. The alarmed Vidyadharas leaped into the sky, along with their groups of women, leaving behind golden jugs of wine, as well as precious utensils, big and small sizes, and golden goblets, cups in the drinking place, as well as many tasty eatables like licking food, chewing food, and many types of other foods. They also left bull hides and swords with golden sheaths. The intoxicated Vidyadharas, with eyes red like lotuses, wearing garlands around their neck and smeared with red sandal paste, flew into the sky. Adorned with necklaces, anklets, and armlets, the Vidyadharis, that's their wives, stayed wonder-struck in the sky, smiling gently in the company of their lovers. The seers among the Vidyadharas, proficient in different fields of knowledge, were also watching the mountain from the sky, along with others. Then the Vidyadharas heard the words of praise of Hanuman by the sages, seekers of the ultimate truth. The Charnas and Siddhas who stood and watched the clear sky said, "Hanuman, the son of the wind god, who is like a mountain with extraordinary might, intends to cross the ocean. For the sake of Ram and the Vanaras, he wants to reach the other shore of the ocean, which is difficult and indeed impossible." The Vidyadharas heard the sages speaking in that manner on the mountain. They beheld Hanuman, the bull among Vanaras, whose strength was beyond measure. And the commentary says, the Vidyadharas and their consorts represent subtle desires, subtle duality that Hanuman was ridding himself of. Like, when you're praised, you feel something. When you're insulted, you feel something. So he got both of those when he got to Lanka, but it was already gone. That's the Vidyadharas and all of this. And the other personalities that left Mahendra, any previous good or bad sanskaras, impressions, that might block or inhibit devotional service. We're almost done. Hanuman, huge as a mountain, moved his body and shook the hair on his body, thundering like a cloud, when the king of birds, Garuda, like the king of birds, Garuda, would shake a serpent. He shook his tail, covered with hair, in order to take off. Hanuman had his tail curled at his back, which appeared like a big serpent being carried off by Garuda. The monkey fixed his arms, looking like iron clubs, firmly on the mountain, and crouched his waist and contracted his feet. The glorious and courageous Hanuman, his head and shoulders contracted, summoned up all his energy and vigor, having cast his eyes upward in order to view the distance and direction in which he had to leap. He restrained his breath in the chest while looking at the sky. A mighty elephant among the Vanaras, Hanuman, holding his feet firmly and standing in that position, contracted his ears and addressed the monkeys when he was about to leap. What did he say? Celebrated verse. Just like an arrow released by Raghava would fly, I too will proceed with the speed of the wind and reach Lanka, ruled by Ravana. So that's the last verse of this section. We have same teaching, not just similar, but same teaching in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is instructing Arjuna to become his instrument. Krishna already had everything planned, and he's inviting Arjuna nimitta matram. Nimitta means being an instrument of a higher power, higher authority. So Hanuman sees himself like that. The acharya function, even any one of us, going out and contacting people that have forgotten of Krishna. Doesn't matter what country they're from or what language they speak or anything. People have forgotten Krishna. And to be a carrier of Krishna's message, you're just being an instrument. If you think otherwise, you won't be very happy and won't make others happy. But if you're just acting as an instrument, and that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, who, any one of us, what are we? We're little specks. But we can be an instrument to someone who's very great and carry forward that message of Krishna in whatever way that we are capable, palatably and appropriately, but that's a function on behalf of Krishna. And carrying out that function, there's some preparation, there's some qualification, but the qualification is just wishing to be an instrument of Krishna's message. In this case, it's Ram's message to Sita. He has to find her, reassure her. He's been prepared. He was even given the ring. But, besides the ring, that was like, hard evidence. But how he spoke, describing Ram's form, describing pastimes, his devotion itself, it was compelling. What's Sita going to feel when she hears all that? For 10 months, she's been tortured. So she's naturally, wary. Ravan is filled with tricks and who knows. But Hanuman's purity and everything was compelling. So she let her guard down and felt safe, and then shared her heart. And so many other nice things. Makes you want to read Ramayana, right? You have, well, we have so many nice things to read. We have Srimad Bhagavatam to read. We have the writings of our acharyas, nectar of devotion and nectar of instruction, and so many nice things. For children, well, not just for children, for anyone, but I think specifically our children. Listen, dial into Nityananda Pran's Ramayana class every Saturday morning. If you're not already doing it, I encourage you to do it. He's swimming in the joy of Ram's pastimes. It's really sweet. And you feel his enthusiasm. It's kind of contagious. So I'm going to be doing this after leaving here. I'm going one time zone east to Detroit. By car, don't worry. And there's going to be October 1st through October 7th is the national holiday for China. So we're going to have, we have our 4th of July holiday. They have it's a 7-day holiday. And morning till night, morning classes, evening classes. So I'll be 12 hours difference from them. So morning class and evening class, which would be for them the opposite. Just discussing Ramayana with translation in Chinese. So it'll take twice as long. But it'll be, I'm sure it'll be very inviting for them. And just one last thing, just little sharing, looking at the clock at 7:30. There's a strategy from the GBCs in China. They feel, rightly so, that people in China they're very strongly invested in their culture. They pride themselves in Chinese culture, Chinese medicine, Chinese architecture, Chinese. So the plan is, it was the suggestion of Chandrasekhar Prabhu, one of the GBCs for China, is that when I do this, so with each of the personalities, just like we just spoke about Hanuman, so there's going to be someone speaking about from Chinese culture or literature or history, who is someone that represents some similar characteristics or traits of that personality. So the first 5-7 minutes is going to be in Chinese, this king, that person, this personality, this literary person, something. And then here comes the Ramayana character that resembles, or their character resembles the Ramayana personality. And one by one. So it's their culture. It's called KCCC, Krishna Consciousness with Chinese Characteristics. So they'll hear something they're all familiar with, and then they're going to hear something they're not familiar with. But they'll see the connection. Culturally. It's in their blood, it's in their system, it's in their culture. And then here comes Ram, or Sita, or Lakshman, or Vibhishan, or Ravan, and so on. It's going to be fun. In case you want to learn Chinese, you can join the class. There'll be a translator. Okay, so any discussion here? Comments or questions or something? I'm looking at the... You always have some nice question. You do? Fantastic.
So what
Here's the microphone, so the people that are watching distant, they'll be able to hear.
So,
Just speak into the microphone.
what does the Hare Krishna mantra mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
It means Hare is calling Radharani. One of Radharani's names is Hara. And in the vocative or calling, it becomes Hare. Hare! Oh, Radha. Yes? Please engage me in the service of Krishna. That's the meaning. It's a call, an appeal to Radharani, because she's the one that will engage us in Krishna's service. Please engage me in Krishna's service. That's the meaning. Oh, Radharani. Oh, energy of Krishna. Please engage me in the service of Krishna. That's the meaning.
Okay.
Okay? Anyone in the room? Go ahead, Paramatma.
Two questions, Maharaj. One of the thing is when you were reading the verses, good and bad samskara inhibits the pure devotion. So I was trying to understand how can a good samskara can really inhibit our...
The samskara itself doesn't inhibit, it's being the enjoyer of. The obstacle is independent enjoyment spirit.
Okay.
So if I do some good work, I get some good samskara, and now I'm anticipating enjoying some good fruit from that good samskara. So it's not exactly the samskara that's the problem, it's the enjoying spirit that's the problem.
Amazing. Thank you, Maharaj. Amazing answer. I was just wondering, when Ravana
She has a question in relation to, response to his? In response to his or separate? Separate, okay, go ahead.
I was just trying to understand, when did Mother Sita, when she was in Panchavati so far with Lord Ramachandra, and the moment Ravana kidnaps, does she changes to Maya Sita at that point?
No. No. Now, there are versions of Ramayana. As you know, there's multiple versions of Ramayana. Some versions of Ramayana say, Agni did a switcheroo. Agni changed him. Sita, come with me. Maya Sita, you go with him. And then when Sita had to go into the fire, she went into the fire, and the real Sita was brought out by Agni. So there's different versions of Ramayana, but that's not standard. There's multiple, and we say multiple Ramayanas. There are authorized ones, and there's lots of ones that aren't. But amongst the authorized means, our great acharyas in disciplic lines, plural, they recognize certain Ramayanas as authentic. And then there's, just like in the 9th canto Bhagavatam, when Shukadeva begins speaking, Maharaj Parikshit, he says, that was 5,000 years ago, I'm only going to speak of the authorized versions. It means they're unauthorized. So, amongst the authorized versions, there's some variety, and that's one of them. What you said, which is, when Ravana was coming, Agni knew. And so the Maya Sita was supplied by Agni. He changed her out to protect Sita, and then returned Sita later. That's one version.
So, what if you been doing devotion the whole day and then something you don't expect, like something bad happens to you?
No. So you want to know what to do when that happens? That's
Yes.
your question? Well, that's a good question. And it happens to all of us, by the way. It's not sometimes. It happens to all of us. There's some steps. First step, mode of goodness. Go into reflective mode of goodness space. My dear Lord Krishna, something unexpected just happened. My life is connected to you and your service. I'm not going to depart from that unexpected circumstance. Let's assume it's unpleasant. I'm not going to budge an inch from your shelter. Now, from that's first is pause. That's one step. Next is connect with Krishna again, and then you can consider what are some appropriate responses suitable for the circumstance that just came my way unexpectedly. You do a little brainstorming session. You know that one. Here's some options. It's called respond rather than react. I have some choices to make, so I'm going to select the choice that's proper, appropriate for the circumstance, and it'll be in alignment with who I really am in my life of devotion to Krishna. Supposing you don't pause and you don't go to connect with Krishna again, you're going to react. And it can be anything. Anger, fear, scream, it can be all kinds of emotional responses or reactions. Get angry, yell at somebody, blame somebody or something. Those things happen when you're not. So the pause, go into reflective space, turn your face to Krishna, not towards the circumstance. Don't go right away to, problem solving. Go to Krishna. And you connect with Krishna. I'm your servant. I'm meant for your service. Here's an unexpected circumstance. How may I best serve you in this circumstance? Now that can when you practice and practice and practice, it happens really quickly. For some of us, we're a little slow. I don't do that. So I've learned. I don't move quickly. So take your time. You don't have to immediately respond to something unless there's a car coming at you or something like that. Then you have to respond quickly. But you can make some choices about how you're going to respond, and do it thoughtfully. With that same devotion to Krishna that you spent the whole day working on your devotion to Krishna, and then something unexpected came. Stay in that devotion to Krishna mood. You want to add something?
Yeah. So can something bad happen to you, like if you did something bad in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I take responsibility. Each of us takes responsibility for whatever we've done in the past. It's kind of like this earlier question of bad impressions and good impressions. We've got all kinds of impressions, and some are good and some are bad, and we're responsible for them. Now, I can blame somebody that did something, but that's coming. Karma comes our way due to our past deeds. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
You have a question?
So Hare Krishna. So this.
It's on.
So is Hanuman alive in the Dwapar Yuga? And what happened to Hanuman after Krishna went to Golok?
After Ram returned to Ayodhya, where did Hanuman go? That's what you want to know?
No. I think Hanuman is still alive and in Dwapar Yuga, correct?
Yes.
So what happened to Hanuman after Krishna went to Golok? Because
Well, he's still. Let me rephrase your question. Hanuman appeared in Dwapara Yuga. He appeared with Ram, who appeared in Dwapara Yuga. Ram ruled for 60,000 years, right? Ram ruled for 60,000 years. And then with his whole entourage, he returned to Ayodhya except for one, Hanuman. Now, where did Hanuman go from that point? And he's still there. And where Hanuman went, you can read in Canto 5, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 19, you'll find out where he went. He went to Harivarsha. Where's Harivarsha? Well, Harivarsha is one of the 9 tracts of land or varshas in Jambudweep. What's Jambudweep? Jambudweep is the central island in Bhumandala. What's Bhumandala? Bhumandala is the plane in Vedic cosmology. It's the plane of the planets or the places of residence in our karmic plane. So Bhu, Bhuvar, Swargaloka, right? So Bhu Loka has 7 islands, circular islands, and the central island is Jambudweep, and Harivarsha is one of the 9 varshas in Jambudweep. Now, that's a lot of language. If you want to get a picture of it, he'll send it to you. So you've heard of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, right? Yes? The Temple of Vedic Planetarium is going to make a 3-dimensional model of what I just said. And what he's going to send you is a little audio, a little video, animated video presentation of what that Temple of Vedic Planetarium is going to do, what it's going to look like. And in the middle range is Bhumandala, and one of the varshas in Bhumandala, or tracts of land in Bhumandala, is Harivarsha. That's where Hanuman is. So the answer to your question, he went to Harivarsha, and he's still there. And it's said that he'll be there to the end of this universe. When the universe is withdrawn, he'll go back to Ram in Ayodhya, in the spiritual realm. And until then, he's at Harivarsha. What's he doing? Singing the praises of Ram. And he has some associates with him. He's not solo. Canto 5, Chapter 19, Bhagavatam. Harivarsha. You'll find it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is devotion and devotees same?
Well, almost the same. They're in the same category, but the devotee is the jiva, and the devotion is the expression of the jiva towards the object, Krishna. So there's actually 3 things. There's the devotee, there's the object of devotion, and the exchange of loving service towards the object of devotion. That's bhakti. So there's 3 things. So in the same category, but they're separate entities. Okay? Fantastic.
No online questions, Maharaj.
Okay. Go ahead. No, you have something.
I have one small question.
Go ahead.
So is Sanchita Karma and Aprarabdha Karma both are same?
Say it again.
Is Sanchita Karma,
I don't know what Sanchita Karma is. I don't know what it is.
Sanchita is the one that is past, the whole karma that is past.
I don't know what the term. So I can't give you a clear answer till I know what the term. You're giving me a definition, I want to know more about what the word actually means before I say yes or no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maharaj, one question. I was just deliberating on the point of Vanara, whether is human being, maybe like human being, may not be like monkey. But then Lord Vishnu tells Lord Brahma that make arrangements that Ravana would be killed not by human being or Vanara or animals. That is what not he asked, right? So
I don't know what exactly the words were.
okay.
So you're asking a very detailed question that I would want to know. What does Valmiki Ramayana say? What did Vishnu tell Brahma?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not going to go there. Unless I know the exact, because it's a very precise question.
Okay.
There's the two categories were animals and humans. That Ravan didn't ask for protection from those two because they're too inconsequential. So Brahma knew those are two categories. Rama knew, or Vishnu knew, so he appeared as a human, and he would be destroyed by a human.
Okay, so my follow-up question was, if that is the case, even a Vanara can kill Ravana? Means, of course, there is a past time, but just in case.
Well, theory, I suppose, because there he wouldn't be invincible
Okay.
to Vanaras, or to animals. That was your question?
Yes.
Okay. You had a question in the back, yes? Yes. You didn't raise your hand, but I could tell.
Yes. So, is there any easier way to understand what is the difference between confidential knowledge, more confidential knowledge, most confidential knowledge?
I have a real easy explanation, but there's probably more than one.
Okay.
Here's a real easy one. Knowledge of the soul, keep it really simple. Knowledge of the soul is confidential, because that's who you are. More confidential is there's a supreme soul and an individual soul. Some people, not many people know who they are. Some people have an understanding of Aham Brahmasmi, but they don't have an understanding of Paramatma. And most confidential, what's the relationship? So we do it again? Confidential is to know who you are. More confidential is you're part of the Supreme. And most confidential is the relationship with the Supreme.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And they're all transcendental,
Yeah,
but less complete, more complete, complete.
most.
Anything else in the room? Or we're ready to wrap up? Do you have another question? Young man, you have a question? No? Okay, okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sir, like you continue to this previous question,
Okay.
Hanuman is still alive, right?
Hanuman what?
Hanuman is still alive, right?
Oh,
Alive,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So what is the purpose behind on that?
What's the purpose?
Yeah, still universe end. So he's going to live till that universe end, right?
Yes.
So what is the actual purpose?
The purpose of what? The purpose
Still
of his being alive?
Yeah. Everybody went back, all the...
So, what's the purpose of Sankirtan? What's the purpose of singing the glories of the Lord? What's the purpose of what Hanuman is doing? He's doing a service. What's the purpose of that service? Is to create auspiciousness. Just this morning, we heard from Akrura, who was on his way to Vrindavan, that kind of sound vibration or glorification of the Supreme Lord. It destroys inauspiciousness, it destroys sinful reactions, it creates an atmosphere of auspiciousness for everybody. That's what he's doing. That's the purpose of what he's doing. He's happy, he can be happy anywhere, but he's creating auspiciousness for everybody. And drawing their attention to Ram. Because that's beneficial, just like his daughter asked. That's bhakti. He's creating bhakti. He needs the opportunity for bhakti by doing what he's doing. That's the purpose. Are you okay with that answer? You look like puzzled.
I still want to continue the same.
Okay, I saw the question mark on your forehead.
No. I got it like, Sankirtana and devotion on purpose or something like that.
But
why the situation what we are seeing currently, there is no Sankirtana movement.
It's the age of Kali.
Okay.
It's just like, why is it cold in the winter? It's the season.
I mean, the thing is like, he is here to show us something like,
No, but so why are there seasons? Why are there ages of mankind? It has to do with guna and karma. It has to do with guna. So, I'll give you two visual images. Visual helps me. So, you know what a whirlpool looks like, right? Like, shh. So take a little something, a little cork, a little something that floats, and put it on the edge of a whirlpool. And it goes around and around and around and around and around, and it goes down and down. It goes faster and faster and faster, and shoo. The four ages of mankind are like that. It starts goodness. It moves nicely, and then by karma, more passion, more ignorance, more passion, more ignorance, more passion, it goes down and down and down and down and down and down and down. So, why does it happen like that? That's the design. Because living entities, they don't want purity, they want mix. And so when you start mixing, you get increase of the modes of nature. You follow? It's supposing you do some bad thing. It's not just you do some bad thing. There's the reaction to the bad thing, and the reaction to the bad thing leads to more bad things. So here's another visual. Supposing you have a big, not just a bucket of paint, but a big vat of paint, white. And over here you have an eyedropper, a blue and one of red, and just stir it. It's no longer white. It's off-white. But not only the red and the blue, but it increases more red and more blue. More passion and more ignorance increases the passion and ignorance. You keep stirring it, and it gets dark. And you no longer, it's not even off-white anymore, it's dark. And then what happens? You go back up to a bucket of white paint. From the end of Kali Yuga, the whole thing is wiped out. Kalki comes, everyone gets liberated. And then the sages descend from the upper realms and start Satya Yuga again. That's the white bucket of paint. Now how does it go from the bottom of the vortex all the way back up? That's how the cycle of yugas works. Everything gets annihilated at the end of Kali Yuga. It's right there in the Bhagavatam, 12th canto. And then Satya Yuga. And then mixing. It's the modes of nature, guna and karma. So why have guna and karma? Because living entities want to be enjoyers. So there's Hanuman in Harivarsha. No, excuse me, it's Kimpurusha Varsha. Kimpurusha Varsha. That's where he is. And he's, diminishing the negative influences of bad activities of living entities in the material world. He's very compassionate. He's contented on his own. He doesn't need anything. He's doing compassionate service. Still, human tendency is with ignorance and passion, and it leads down and down. But after the winter season, summer season comes again. First spring, then. So things move in. Vedic picture of time is time moves in cycles. The yugas move in cycles. The seasons move in cycles. Day and night moves in cycles. Life and death moves in cycles. Everything moves. Time moves in cycles. There's big ones, small ones, medium ones. Time is moving everything. So Hanuman is just singing the glories of Ram as the movements of time keep going. He had nothing of interest otherwise. And Hanuman, when Ram brings him, he'll go.
Thank you, Maharaj.
You know, you're another way to ask your question is go step way back and say, why creation? It's just asking the same question in from a different angle, of different, really far away angle. Because living entities want it. And when they want it, it's not clean. It's got modes of nature mixed in the mood of enjoyment, and there's consequences for that, and so things go down. And even when people are doing good things, it goes in cycles, because that's the arrangement of how time moves. Any online questions? One.
This question is from Visalaksha Prabhu. Is there any lesson to learn from Lord Ramachandra and Lord Lakshmana meeting Sugriva through Sri Hanuman?
Waiting to what? The last part?
Ram and Lakshman meeting Sugriva
Meeting.
through Hanuman.
Yeah. Sugriva gets the benefit. That's the lesson. We had this discussion yesterday about Maricha. You know who is Maricha? The one that took the shape of the golden deer? Maricha. So, Maricha knew Ravan is a bad guy. And Ram's a good guy. And Ram's all powerful. And Ravan is going to get smashed. Question. Why didn't Maricha just take shelter of Ram and get protection from the bad guy? It would have been a really simple solution, wouldn't it? Why didn't he? Because he didn't meet Hanuman. In order to become a devotee, you have to have association with a devotee. Bhakti awakens by receiving bhakti from one who has bhakti. And it doesn't happen otherwise. So now this question, what's the significance? Sugriva is Hanuman is Bhakta Hanuman. And Bhakta Hanuman brought Ram to Sugriva and told Sugriva. Sugriva trusted Hanuman. He's good. Okay, accept. That's all it took. Sugriva became a devotee because of association with Hanuman. And through the association of Hanuman, he got the association of Ram and Lakshman. Bhakti begins by associating with those who have bhakti. So, my dear devotees, give your association to those that have forgotten about Krishna. And it's not easy, you'll find out. They'll say, no, I'm too busy, or something. Or, no, I'm not interested. Or, no, I already know all about Krishna. Or they'll say different ways of saying no. You'll find. It's not easy. But, We want to represent Ram. We want to represent Krishna and deliver Krishna's message. And we don't mind people saying no. We just say, okay, here, take some prasadam. And smile. Be good emissaries as Hanuman. Be good representative. And allow people to say no, that's fine. We go forward anyways. Okay. Prabhupada ki